Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Dentzel Domain on Red State Talk Radio. I am your host, Ed Dentzel. I hope everybody had a great weekend. Did you get out to see the Star Wars film, The Force Awakens? It's always going to be, it's weird like that. You want to say The Force Awakens, but really what comes out of your mouth is the Star Wars movie. When really, there was only the first movie called Star Wars. Now it's called A New Hope, but at the time it was called Star Wars. And then The Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, but then you still call it a Star Wars film. Is anybody just coming out and just calling it The Force Awakens, which is the technical title of the movie? I don't know. But it made a lot of money this weekend. I will tell you that I've read the plot. I talked about that on Friday. I've read some reviews. I watched some reviews on YouTube this past weekend. A lot of people loved it. However, there were some other people that liked it but didn't think it was one of those movies where you're going to go back to the theater over and over again, which is the way that the original Star Wars movie in 1977 made all its money. It didn't make it just because a bunch of people went and saw it once. There were many, high percentage of people who went back and saw it 2, 3, 4 times. That is how a movie makes a lot of money. Same way with like Titanic, same thing. People going to see it once, twice, 3 times. And I don't know if that's going to happen with this particular movie, The Force Awakens. Seems like there are a lot of people who liked it, but there were some things that went on in it that kind of made them shake their heads, but they still liked it. So we'll see. You can find my books at Amazon.com. Just do a search for Edward Dentzel there. Science fiction with a little conservative ideology mixed in. You can download them to your Kindle in a matter of moments. You can email me at edwarddenzel@reagan.com. You can follow me on Twitter, Dentzel Domain, all one word, no space in between. Go to my site, edwarddenzel.com. Added a few things there this weekend. Go to my book page, which is edwarddenzel.com/book. If you'd like to get the first chapter of my next book called The Comebacks. So you can check that out. Little free little morsel for you. The book's not going to be coming out for a while, but hopefully this will hold you over until it does come out. And the first chapter, I will say, is decently long, and it introduces you to all the characters. So it's not like one of those first chapters where you're going to read it and you still have no idea what's going on. I think kind of sets it up really nice, so you might want to check that out. But you can find all of my old Red State Talk radio shows at edwarddenzel.com. You can also find those shows in the iTunes store. You can find them on YouTube. Had a little problem uploading to YouTube this weekend, but I got it done. You can find them at Podbean. You can find them in SoundCloud. And I should say at edwarddenzel.com, you can watch my highlight reel that I filmed a few months ago. Just when you get to edwarddenzel.com, you can look up at the top and see promo. Click on that, and you will find that video. Now that I got all of the marketing out of the way. Oh, and you can find me on LinkedIn and Facebook. Man, I am everywhere. That amazes me how it seems like that speech of the stuff that where I am, it gets longer like every month. That's what you got to do. There are these social mediums out there, and you have to use them. If you don't use them, then you're not really anywhere. Before I get started, if you saw there was a wreck in Las Vegas last night. First of all, when I found out about it, I thought it was another terrorist shooting. I used to live in Las Vegas. I lived there for 13 and a half years. Still have many friends who live there. Happened near Planet Hollywood, and like I said, when I first heard about it, the way it had been explained to me was that it was another terrorist shooting. Something like 20 casualties, and I'm like, oh man. And then when I saw, not that it makes it any better, but it was some woman who, I don't know, lost her mind, drove her car up on the curb. At least one person got killed. And the other reason that really caught my attention is because one of my very good friends, a girl who actually has helped me get back into shape. I've told you how I'm working out again. She has kind of helped me along in that because she's into that type of stuff. She actually works at Planet Hollywood, and I was thinking, oh, man. But she's okay. She emailed me. I emailed her. She emailed me back. She's okay. In fact, she was out of town. She didn't even know it happened. So I'm wondering if I'm going to be knowing anybody that got hit by that woman in the car. Granted, it's probably tourists, meaning that was on Las Vegas Boulevard on the sidewalk, but you never know. Because I do know a lot of people there. So I'm a little worried about that because they haven't released any names yet. So let's get right into the show. Can I just say something? This is a criticism that goes out to conservative websites. You know that research is allowed for this show. And I'm noticing something more and more that is disgusting to me. And it's mainly when I view news on my phone. Now, granted, a couple sites are doing it just if you go into the internet from your computer, but it seems that it happens on my phone more than anywhere else. And that is conservative sites, and I'm just going to call your sites out. If you're going to do this, and it looks bad, I think, for you and for us as conservatives, then I'm going to call you out. National Review, hotair.com. What is this thing with you making advertisements look like real stories? I just want to know. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go to your phone, go to hotair.com, and you will see how they'll have their regular blog stories at hotair.com, but then you'll get down there, and in the same typeface, in the same color, they will put an advertisement. You know, there was a time when ads were made to make themselves look different than the news. More colorful. Going back to the newspaper days, you knew what the ads were and you knew what the stories were. But now, for example, at National Review, it's the same thing. National Review, for the titles of their stories, they use a particular typeface, a particular font, a particular size. Now the ads look exactly the same way. See, this is to me a sign, and it may be going on at liberal sites too. I'm not really sure. I'll have to look into that. It may be going on at CNN and the LA Times and the Huffington Post and wherever else. But I'm telling you, for those conservative sites out there, this is a very, very short-term fix to a problem that you must be having. If you don't know what I'm talking about, see, the way they determine whether ads are working or not is whether they get clicked on. And see, what this is really, this is a way to trick people into clicking on to ads that look like stories. Thus, that website, whoever runs the website can say, hey, look at all these clicks I'm getting on this ad. Well, yeah, the reason you're getting those clicks is because you're tricking people who aren't paying enough attention. They think that they're clicking on a story by Kevin Williamson or Andrew J. McCarthy when really they're clicking on to an ad regarding the selling of wine or selling gold or something like that. That is disgusting. Hot Air, you too. I know you guys need ad revenue because the only way you can keep your ads going, but to trying to trick people, tricky, because most of the people, 95% of the people that come to your sites are conservatives. Why are you trying to trick your readers? Why are you doing that? Don't you have more respect for them than that? I know you need clicks. Do you really need them that badly? And if you aren't getting the amount of clicks on your ads, maybe you should think about getting different advertisers. How about that? How about different products instead of trying to trick people into looking at things they normally wouldn't look at? I can understand. For example, I'll admit it, I go to some sites on the internet that are not totally legal when it comes to watching sporting events. Let's put it that way. Well, I'll just leave it at that. Those sites have those kinds of ads. So if you, in fact, over a week ago, I directed my dad to one of those sites. And for a person going to one of those sites for the first time, it can be very, very confusing. But I have a few years of experience in this. That you have to click through a bunch of ads before you actually get to what you want to see. And I'm not talking about porn. I'm talking about regular sporting events, football, basketball, baseball, NASCAR, whatever sport you're into. And you have to, and a lot of those ads look like antivirus displays. You need to update your software. They look like real displays that would come up on your computer, warning you, a computer warning about this, about that. Well, really, they're just ads. And that person who runs that site gets paid by how much these fake warning signs get clicked on. That's just the way it is. Now, I understand, being that those sites are a little bit underhanded in the first place, that goes on. I understand that because it's shady anyway. But real websites with real news about the news of the world, terrorism, the economy, Barack Obama, the omnibus bill, and mixed in all of that, you want to fool people into clicking on an ad for a magic bed? Really? That is low brow. Or as they say, I guess they would say in sports, on sports radio, that's pretty bush league, man. It's pretty bush league. And my first recommendation, you know how if you're just new to the show, you don't know my attitude toward the internet. I believe that the internet eventually, you have to remember, internet still fairly new. People are still trying to figure out how to make money there regarding information and whether to put it behind a paywall and ads. And this is a continuation of that. When I know that National Review is a popular site. You can go to Alexa.com and find out how popular a site it is. It's popular. And you can find it's Hot Air, popular site. Popular sites, by any measure, they are. But when those sites have to try to trick people into clicking on ads, you know something about the financing of all these sites is not going well. Because people get disgusted. They click on something like this, and suddenly they start thinking, what are these people, these conservatives who run these sites, what are they trying to do to me? I'm a fan of theirs. Why are they trying to trick me? I think you really got to fix that. That is bad. That's a bad look for you. And really it could turn people off from coming back to your sites. Now, a person like me, who maybe might have a more discriminating eye, I can pick those ads out, maybe just because I pay a little bit more attention than the average person. But that just shows you if people are paying attention, they're not going to click on them anyway. So trying to fool them doesn't work. You're better off just using the ads and making them look like real advertisements. You're better off doing it that way. And then you can say, well, if they don't click on it, that's just the way that goes. In contrast to getting people to click on them by accident, which doesn't help anybody. To me, it's disgusting. It's very lowbrow. Like I said, it's more like something these shady sports sites would do. Let's move on to something else. Lindsey Graham finally leaving the race. What can you say about this? I know that I'd rather more talk about Lindsey Graham, the guy, than him dropping out of the race. Why was he in it in the first place? Really? I don't know. I know he's given it a shot before. Was this just an ego trip for him? I think it was. I saw him. I'm trying to think back. Was he ever on the main stage for any of the debates? Maybe the first one. Was he on the main stage for the first one? Maybe he wasn't. I don't get it. I do not get the fascination with this guy. How he continues to win in South Carolina, one of the more conservative states, even though I know that its gun laws aren't that great. How he continues to win in one of the most conservative states is beyond me. I realize that he has a machine there, but it's still, in the end, takes the people of South Carolina to show up and vote for this guy. No charisma, does not come across as being very intelligent, not a very good speaker, maybe in person the nicest guy in the world. I don't ever hope to meet him. I really don't care. But you people in South Carolina, as much as he has been in league with John McCain over the years, could you do the rest of us a favor and just not vote for him again? I don't know when he's up for election. If it's next year, 2018, 2020, whatever it is, could you please spare us Lindsey Graham? Not conservative, not smart, not well-spoken. He's the perfect, let's put it this way. When we elect people like Lindsey Graham, it pleases Democrats a whole bunch. I'm sure that Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, the rest of them, if they had their kind of dream Republican politician on the other side, he or she would look something like Lindsey Graham. Roll over here, roll over there. Having a Liberty score from conservativereview.com. Unfortunately, I did not check it, but I'm going to go and say that it's probably down in the low 60s into the 50s. He is a Democrat's dream, and he keeps getting elected in one of the more conservative states in the country. And on top of it, he must have a little bit kind of an ego within him that he wants to run for president, was in it this far, and let's put it this way. Scott Walker was getting higher numbers than Lindsey Graham, and Scott Walker dropped out 2 months ago. Bobby Jindal was getting, I believe, higher numbers than Lindsey Graham, and Bobby Jindal dropped out a month ago. Rick Perry, probably more popular, dropped out a while ago. Here Lindsey Graham was just hanging around. So he's gone. Monday morning, wakes up, doesn't want to do it anymore. And that, you should know that that's probably going to mean that the next debate, and I'm not even sure when the next debate is, that I'm guessing they're going to be getting rid of the junior debate for next time. That's just a prediction. Maybe there's a plan on the books to have a junior debate for the next time around. But what are you going to do? Is Rand Paul then going to get knocked down, or John Kasich going to get knocked down, and you only have 6 or 7 for the main debate? Now, personally, I have nothing wrong with that. You know me, that all these people up on stage has done nothing but serve to give each of them less time. But with Lindsey Graham dropping out and whoever else is left to be in that lesser debate, I think it's time you got to ditch it and just have a cutoff. Just say 8 or 9 is going to be our maximum number. If you can't get to that, we're not putting 12 people on stage. And it may be that between now and the next debate that some others drop out as well. And dare I say, I hope that happens. I hope it does. Now, Jeb Bush, not going anywhere. For all those people, because look at his numbers, he's not going anywhere. I told you that. I've told you that. He has enough money, he has enough support that he's going to be around a while, no matter what Donald Trump tries to do to him. I just wish that Lindsey Graham and some of these others just would have never. Maybe Lindsey Graham kind of saw what John McCain did back in 2008, thought he could replicate it. Just not possible. I remember there was it the second debate that I think that I caught the early part of it, where they were asking him questions and his answers had nothing to do with it was like every answer was pre-planned or something, even worse than what politicians usually do in these debates. I don't know. There was, I think it was the second debate where Lindsey Graham, it kind of seemed to me maybe he had one too many Xanax before he got up there. Just thought he was somewhere else. I think it was the second debate. But he's gone. I just wish that there were no Lindsey Grahams in the Republican Party at all. But that's just a little bit too much for me to hope for. In South Carolina, let's get it together. I can understand, Lindsey Graham, if he was a senator from Colorado, which is more purplish, or Virginia, which is more purplish, or, state like that. Washington, or even maybe Nevada, given that it kind of goes purplish depending on how many people in Clark County and Las Vegas want to show up. But not South Carolina. Come on, man. Let's move on to something else. Speaking of which, there was another debate this week, and I'll have you know that I did not watch it. And that was the Democrat debate. And the only thing I even know about it, I'll be honest with you, because I know that there are going to be other conservative talk shows on Red State Talk Radio and elsewhere, people who watch the debate and will be able to talk for an hour and just to fill up time saying, well, they're wrong in this or wrong. Well, that's what we do here every day. Do I really need to watch a Democrat debate to tell you why I disagree with the Democrats? That sounds to me like me just putting in time. Not sure what I'm going to talk about on Monday, so I tell you what, I'll just watch the Democrat debate on Saturday night, and then I can just tell you why they're all wrong for an hour. That just doesn't sound very interesting to me. The only thing I know about it is they came back from a break and Hillary Clinton wasn't up on stage. That is amazing to me. It's kind of funny. But unfortunately for her, if she does get the Democrat nomination, that's going to prove to be a pretty good ad if whoever she runs against is smart enough to do so. If the RNC is smart enough to put together a 30-second, a minute ad regarding the lights coming back up, Martin O'Malley being up there, Bernie Sanders being up there, but the podium in the middle being empty. Because when I think of that, what do you think of? Let's see. I'm telling you, this is the first thought that came to my mind when I heard that this happened. What was the first thing that came to your mind? See, what came to my mind was Clint Eastwood with the empty chair at the Republican convention in 2012. Clint Eastwood went off on that. It wasn't necessarily a rant, a diatribe, somewhat here and there, making fun of how there's the president's chair and he's not in it. He's checked out. That's what I thought of. Now we have a real-world example of that, of the presumptive Democrat nominee not ready to continue with the debate when they come back from commercial. Now, from what I read further, that she was in the restroom and she didn't want to share the bathroom with anybody. Well, that's kind of funny, but you know what? I don't like sharing bathrooms with people either. I'll be honest with you. Public restrooms are just like one of the weirdest things ever to me. I get, like a theater or something like that. I get it. But I don't know. Maybe it's just me. And I think there's a reason there were at least a couple Seinfeld episodes with George Costanza wanting his own bathroom. It's because a lot of people think like that. So if Hillary Clinton wants her own bathroom, I get it. I'm not going to give her a hard time about that. That she couldn't get back to the stage in time, I am going to give her a hard time regarding that. And I hope that the Republicans can take advantage of that somewhere down the road. Maybe you could use that in a good Benghazi ad. Where was Hillary Clinton when Benghazi was going on? Where was she when they needed help over there and those Americans were getting killed? She wasn't at the podium. The phone call went out. What was the ad that the Democrats used in 2008? Right? Who would you trust calling at 2 a.m, that ad? Well, we now know that Hillary Clinton is not going to be at her podium at 2 a.m, or maybe it was 1 a.m, whatever that ad was. Is the Republican Party clever enough to come up with something like that? Because it's true and it's funny. Now, probably in Hillary Clinton's mind, she probably doesn't care. She didn't care whether she got back in time or not. She knows, we know all the stories, that Hillary Clinton's campaign is actually financing the Democrat Party right now because Democrats don't have any money, which I talked about a month ago. It's hard to raise money from people who are poor, people that the Democrat Party has been holding down for decades. Can't get money from people like that. So no wonder they're broke. You want people to be dependent on food stamps and welfare and Obamacare. It's no wonder then that they have no money to give you. But Hillary Clinton, with her shady Clinton Foundation connections and whatever her husband's been doing, they have plenty of money to give the Democrat Party. And then it's no wonder that Debbie Wasserman Schultz gears these debates to take place when nobody watches TV on Saturday nights. I'm sure that people hear about a Democrat debate taking place on a Saturday night, and they suddenly wish it was like the late 70s, early 80s again when they could watch The Love Boat, Fantasy Island, and Solid Gold, and Hee Haw. We could run those reruns on Saturday nights, and I'm sure they would get better ratings than that Democrat debate did. So, I heard that Martin O'Malley gave her a hard time. No. I don't know. Here's what you need to know about Democrats. And I found this article from Kevin Williamson at National Review. And Kevin Williamson, you should really be giving your company a hard time for those ads. Going to go back to that for just a second. But he had a great article regarding Democrats, and it's really why, as a Republican, you don't need to watch the Democrat debates at all. He just revealed what the Democrats stand for. They've tried to repeal the First Amendment, the assaulting of student journalists, going back to what happened at the University of Missouri. They want to imprison people who don't believe in global warming. They've used the IRS and the ATF against its enemies. It's a really spectacular article by Kevin Williamson, and I suggest you check it out. That's why I would tell you, as a Republican, I don't know why you watch the Democrat debates. We know who they are. You know that you're not going to get what you got during the Republican debate, and granted, I think that's what makes us so much better than them. You're going to have real arguments, whatever side you come down on, the Jeb Bush sides, the Donald Trump sides, the Marco Rubio sides, the Ted Cruz sides. At least we have real freedom of speech. The diversity of thinking going on up there. The Democrats do not. That's what makes us better. But I got to go to the break. You've been listening to the Dentzel Domain on Red State Talk Radio.
Talk radio the way the founding fathers would have done it.
I'm just a man trying to make his mark on history.
Red State Talk Radio.
Accuracy and range are a necessity. Now comfort is an option as well. Nemo Arms introduces the Omen 300 Win Mag. The Omen 300 is perfectly balanced for reduced recoil, creating sub-minute of angle accuracy. And fit for the tightest of tolerances. The Omen is offered in carbine or full-length models with a 10 or 14-round magazine. American-made, owned, and designed. Nemo Arms is setting a new standard in modern sporting rifles. Find out more at nemoarms.com.
Less than 2% of America's population volunteers to defend our nation. Though we rarely see them, we live the benefits of these heroes' sacrifices in the freedom we know and the safety we feel. Each and every day, the Gary Sinise Foundation serves our nation by honoring our defenders, veterans, first responders, and their families. We do this by creating and supporting unique programs designed to entertain, educate, inspire, strengthen, and build communities. The Gary Sinise Foundation has grown because the need has never been greater. Together, we'll improve the lives of thousands of American heroes and their families day in, day out, all year long. While we can never do enough to show our gratitude to our nation's defenders, our veterans, our first responders, and the families who stand by them, we can always do a little more. Join us. Visit GarySiniseFoundation.org.
Hi, I'm Gil Fulbright. The people that run my campaign, they've made this commercial, and I'm in it. This campaign, it's not about me. It's about crafting a version of me that'll appeal to you. A version that visits random work sites with paid actors pointing at things. A version of me that doesn't find old people loathsome or pointless. Has a conventionally attractive yet curiously still family. Listening to my constituents, legislating, these are things I don't do. What I do is spend about 70% of my time raising funds for re-election. I'd do anything to stay in office. My name's Gil Fulbright, but hell, I'll change my name to Phil Goldbright, or Bill Fulbright, or fill up my mouth with farts. These are the things that are important to me. And these are the fine people that finance my campaign. Now, in order to do these things, I have to stay in office. And to stay in office, I have to keep these guys happy. Now, if any of these things make these guys unhappy, well, my hands are tied. So come November, the choice is clear. You want another spineless mouthpiece for special interest and lobbyists? Or a spineless mouthpiece for special interest and lobbyists? I'm Philip a Mouth with Farts, and I approve this message.
We're back at the Dentzel Domain on Red State Talk Radio. During the break, just to go back to a former topic from the first half hour, ads on conservative sites. I went to the Drudge Report. No ads on the Drudge Report today. None. Zero. Interesting. Just want you to think about that long and hard. But getting back to my discussion about the Democrat debate and contrasting it with the Republican debate, if an alien came down and saw that Democrat debate on Saturday night, the alien would never know that there were different kinds of points of view on all sorts of political issues in the United States. The alien would look at those three people on stage and think, "Oh, okay, they're running in a contest of some type, and this is the only way. This is just a contest of personality. It's not really anything about issues." Because these three people on stage, they seem to agree just about on everything. So it's just about people elect a leader dependent on their personality and not where that what that person thinks. Whereas if that alien, the alien would never know that there's whole wide range of ways we can look at every topic in the world. That alien beams down and watches the Republican debate, any of them, from August till now, and this could go back to the debates of 2012, 2008, way back. The alien would discover, oh, I get it. So we have some interventionists over here, and we have some isolationists over here. We have some people who believe in a flat tax. We have some people who believe in a VAT. Some people who just want to currently tweak the kind of tax system that the United States, this country, has. We have business leaders up there who have been successful in business. You have some politicians up there. You have some governors. You have this wide diversity of people's backgrounds, people who came from silver spoons in their mouths to people who came from nothing. Wow, these people really are different. And that one guy with that haircut, what is that? That's what an alien would be thinking, looking at the Republicans. Oh, they do have some sort of freedom of speech, diversity of opinion. Even though they seem to all be kind of together, they're all sort of one political party, but you're allowed to have different opinions, and even to the point where people are arguing back and forth. On the Democrat side, well, you watch them in front of the cameras, the alien's thinking, yep, it's just a contest of personality. Do you like this Bernie Sanders guy? Because he's not much different than this Martin O'Malley guy, and then there's this woman in the middle who couldn't even come back from on time from a commercial. She seems to be the front runner, though, and a lot of people, it seems, like her, but they all kind of think the same. And Democrats claim that we're the ones who are mindless automatons. That we're all just ditto heads. That we just follow what the conservative media have been saying for the last 30 years since it came to prominence mainly through talk radio. Whereas we're the ones who have true disagreements, they're the ones who don't. Funny how that works. And that kind of leads me to my next topic, which was interesting for me this past weekend. Spent some time on Twitter, and I engaged with a few. What I did on Twitter this weekend, I should say, was trying to gain followers, following people, getting followers back, both for my Dentzel domain account, and I also have an account for the next book that I'm bringing out called The Comebacks. I have a Twitter account on its own for just that. But on my Dentzel domain account, the one I always mention during the show, I started doing a little research into a lot of these people who support Donald Trump. Maybe looked at between 10 and 15 accounts where all the person does, man or woman, hard to say, given the internet, is talk about Donald Trump and how he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Here's what I found. Just a couple observations for all of you. And this is, I've told you, there's something about all of this that is suspicious to me. That I think that some of his support is being astroturfed. Almost exclusively with Donald Trump accounts, in contrast to Ted Cruz accounts, Marco Rubio accounts, Jeb Bush accounts, Chris Christie accounts, Rand Paul accounts, is that Donald Trump supporters on Twitter rarely offer up their own thoughts. All they do is retweet what others have already read. They don't even type out their own thoughts saying, I love you, Donald Trump. Everything is a retweet. Going back months to when Donald Trump started his campaign. When was that? Back in May. Yes, I took the time to do that. Because I'm interested. I'm curious. This is the part of me that takes an interest in plane crashes and disappearances and unsolved murders, making its way into my political life. Because when I hear about an unsolved case or a strange murder, something like that, I will Google search all sorts of different things about it. Not just going down a couple pages into the Google search, but I'll get down into the 20s and the 30 pages of a Google search when I'm really interested in finding something out about. I leave no stone unturned, to use a horrible cliche. Nice cliche, Ed. But that's what I did on Twitter this weekend with Donald Trump supporters and supporters from the other, because I wanted to have like a control group for the other candidates, see what they're doing. And they have their share of retweeters as well. But those Donald Trump people, it's funny how then I engaged a couple of them. They took offense to a couple things that I said, because you will see if you go to my account, you'll see that I said some nasty things about people who retweet this weekend, and I got a response. Guess who I got responses from? Donald Trump people. Didn't get any responses from Marco Rubio people or Ted Cruz people about retweeting. Didn't get any responses from Jeb Bush or Chris Christie or Rand Paul people. Only the Donald Trump people who are following me. Maybe they're not following me anymore. Only those people came back at me hard. Maybe I touched them in places they don't like to talk about too much. I don't like how I just said that. That sounds really bad. Maybe I hit them in places that they don't like to talk about. Places that may be just a little too sensitive for them. Then they'll go on, and as I engage them, they'll go on about how they look at the information, and one of them even called me a liberal. That should tell you something. All the while claiming how independent their thought is. Meanwhile, all they do is retweet what other people have said, specifically what Donald Trump has said. So, on one hand, they think they're the most independent-minded people in the world. But then all they do is retweet what other people say. Now, you go and try to figure that out. I'm sure if you look up hypocrisy in the dictionary, you will find that. And so I'm left to wonder, see, when I see all those retweets, and being that I know what it takes to be on Twitter, I've been on Twitter for 4 years. I've put out a lot of tweets. I will admit that I do use Hootsuite to schedule some of my tweets to reduce my workload. But I do tweet out articles. I tweet out original thoughts. I can be sometimes funny, sometimes serious. But it's a mixture of everything. Mixtures. Which is what you find on your normal Twitter account, even if it has nothing to do with politics. But when I see all this retweet of this story, retweet of that story, you start thinking, maybe these people are just getting paid to do it. I know that that's the first thing. In fact, if you do a search, and I shouldn't say on top of that, a lot of these people don't even have a personal picture. They just have that little egg that you get when you sign up for an account. Now, if you do a search for signs that a Twitter account is faked, it's a fake account, it's a spam bot account, guess what you find? People who don't, a good sign of a fake Twitter account is an account with an egg as a picture. A good sign of a fake account on Twitter are accounts that do nothing but retweet other stories. And a high percentage, like I said, there's some others. I even told you like a week ago, I saw a lot of people retweeting Ted Cruz stuff, and it was all the same tweet over and over and over, and I said, oh, these accounts are all fake. So each one of these candidates has fake accounts. But it just seems to me, in the studying I did, I'm going to say that it was maybe 3 hours this weekend, 4 hours this weekend, that because I was doing my own Twitter stuff at the same time. Those it sure does seem that Donald Trump has a lot of fake accounts out there. And it seems that if there are people behind these accounts, I'm motivated to think that they're being paid to just market for him. But they're posing as regular people out there in the hinterlands that really support him without being paid. But retweet it. For those of you who don't use Twitter, I know that this discussion is a little strange. It's a little hard to understand. And there's nothing that I can say in a radio show to explain how Twitter works. It's something you'd have to go and look at yourself. But it would be no different than you having a conversation at work with somebody about a particular candidate and the person saying that, well, I use my own mind to make up, and they're using all these great statements about their particular candidate, and then later, if you go over to the person's desk, you find out it was all scripted. That the person had gone onto the internet and was just parroting what somebody else was saying. Meanwhile, they're portraying it as being original thought. That's the best way I can explain it to you, what these people on Twitter are doing, specifically with Donald Trump. They claim to be independent thinkers, but all they do is retweet what other people say. There's not even, I like Donald Trump because not even any original thought like that. It's really, really creepy. It's like Stepford Wives stuff. And it's what makes me suspicious about his support. Now, granted, when we get to Iowa, maybe he'll get like 60% of the vote. We'll go to New Hampshire, he'll get 70% of the vote. And I will have to tell you, I'm full of it. But I'm just telling you what I see. And that these people, a couple of these people came at me so hard this weekend after I made that statement about retweets tells me something. They couldn't let it go. Just couldn't let it go. They thought they needed to engage me, maybe because I caught their attention. So I thought you might find that interesting, because I've told you for months and months. I'm trying to figure out who the average Trump supporter is. I'm trying to understand. I'm honest to God, I'm trying to understand them. And the only way you can do that is having conversations with them and by calling them out for who you think they are. You can't learn anything about these people by just admiring them from afar. And it seems the best way to get their attention is to make fun of them, especially when they're retweeting all the time. Let's move on to something else. Along those lines, and this is, I told you what I found disgusting about some conservative sites at the beginning of the show. This is also, to me, disgusting. And this comes from WorldNet Daily, which is a site that I don't go to too often because sometimes it just has some stuff there. It's just a little too kooky for me. But this is Phyllis Schlafly. Phyllis Schlafly was Sarah Palin before Sarah Palin was Sarah Palin. She's been a well-known conservative well before I was born, well before Sarah Palin was born. And she comes out saying that Donald Trump might be our last hope. And this is something else that I worry about. Because of this omnibus bill that was passed, I agree, it sucks. Omnibus bill sucks. But some things should be noted regarding all of this. There were a bunch of Republicans who voted against it. In fact, 130 in the House voted against it. Do those people in Phyllis Schlafly's mind not get any credit? Granted, to me, it should just be a no-brainer to vote against it. But do they not get mentioned at all? Likewise, in the Senate, there were 30-some senators, Republicans who voted against it. Do they not get any credit as well? Granted, it wasn't enough to stop it. And that's, once again, disgusting. It's what ticks us off as conservatives. But for a leading conservative, a well-known conservative like Phyllis Schlafly, to then go out of her way and say Donald Trump is our last greatest hope. Well, you know what, Ms. Schlafly? Marco Rubio voted against the omnibus bill. Why isn't he the last hope? I just want to know. He voted against it. He had a chance to vote for it. He voted against it. Rand Paul voted against it. Why didn't you mention him? Ted Cruz voted against it. Why didn't you mention him? 3 guys had a chance. Now, I guess in Marco Rubio's case, he didn't vote against it. He just didn't show up. Let's make that perfectly clear there. But he didn't vote for it. And he's been missing a lot of votes anyway, which you can judge that on its merits. But these other guys didn't vote for it. Why don't they get your attention, Ms. Schlafly? Why do you have to automatically default to Donald Trump, a person who you as a conservative, you've been a conservative longer than I have been alive. And then you say that Donald Trump is our last hope. This is like Star Wars. What was it? A New Hope? A Last Hope? We've got Star Wars on the mind these days. Maybe that's why she chose to put it that way. Because if you haven't noticed, just in all culture in the United States, everybody is trying to latch on to some sort of Star Wars phrase within the last couple weeks, being that this movie has come out. In sports, in politics, in music, everywhere. It's everywhere. Why would a conservative who has been a conservative longer than I've been alive latch on and say so many nice things about a guy who is not conservative? You can say a lot of things. I know that there are people that like Donald Trump just because he believes in winning and he's strong and all this. But when a leading conservative praises him, given Donald Trump's history, it makes me suspicious. Sounds desperate to me. And there's another point about this omnibus bill that I'd like to make. Because we know that bills like this have been passed too many times in the last decades. Too many times. This omnibus bill is just one of many that have been passed like this since the era of big government started. And of all of the men and women, Carly Fiorina, of all of the people on the Republican side, there is nobody that has benefited more from bills like this than Donald Trump. Regarding all the businesses that he's been in, being that he believes in the government pushing private people off their land to give the land to other private people. When is somebody going to get into the businesses of Donald Trump to show that, you know what, over the last 3 decades, his companies have benefited from bills like the one that was passed this weekend, the bill that he is now making fun of. And you know what he'll say? He'll say exactly what he said about Hillary Clinton. Well, that's just the way it costs of doing business. So on one hand, he will criticize the omnibus bill, but when he's in business, he has no problem taking advantage of it. And Phyllis Schlafly tells me he's the last greatest hope. You conservatives who think like that should be ashamed of yourselves. I guess we're going to kind of bookend this show today. Disgusted by conservative websites at the beginning, and then disgusted by conservative leaders who have gone along with Donald Trump this long, and then to the point of calling him the last greatest hope, when he is the one that has benefited from legislation and bills like this more than anybody on the Republican side who's running for president. But I gotta go. You've been listening to the Dentzel Domain on Red State Talk Radio, and I'll talk to you again very soon.